Gosh, we're having some trouble with Facebook today, and I'll explain why in a little bit here, but we're just going to let that go for the time being. Hi, this is Mark Rushton of markrushtongallery.com, and it is Monday afternoon, April 18th, 2022, and I've been super busy with the day job today, but I finally was able to get away from it here, got my hours in, and I'm focused on these matters now. And so we always start off this video is called "The Return of the Ambient Rushton Podcast." I know I never say never, but what can I say? So we always start off with the daily video here. The daily video of the day. We're going to talk about the Instagram picture of the day, the Instagram picture out at Mark Rushton, and you can find out information about my gallery and my prints and limited editions and originals. This is just kind of an interesting site where I publish new work and past things and merch and business cards and Easter videos. And but today's picture is of a mobile version of the Mark Rushton Gallery here. And so the Mark Rushton Gallery was always going to be a crossover of my visual art and my work as a recording artist. I use my paintings and pictures as cover art for my recordings. But I do have a small batch of sealed CDs sitting around for older releases, because that was the thing that you had to do back in the day. You had to make CDs for one reason or another to get onto Amazon, to do this, to do that. And we finally have got over that vestigial curve or cliff or whatever, the thing that you need to, the mountain you need to climb, right? And so I don't really make physical media anymore, but I have physical media sitting around, and it was kind of like, it doesn't do anything sitting on a shelf, right? It's back to the old motivational quote there, right? And so I figured out a way in the Mark Rushton Gallery. If you go down here, and yeah, we have the new calendar. The new calendar's out here and on sale. But then I also figured out how to put my compact discs out here. And so they are out here, $17.95 list price with free shipping in the United States. But they are on sale right now, 20% off, $13.95. And so I've got a lot of copies of A Brief Stop, which is an excellent ambient album from 2017, and single copies of Lonely Music, Meditation Music, Flow, Breathe in the Winter Air, and 5512, and then a great photo there. Isn't that great? Look at that fellow there. Yeah, that was, lots of stories there. Anyway, so there's just, if you're interested in a CD or interested in discovering my work, because the great thing about the site here is you go out here and you're like, maybe I want a CD, right? But then if you kind of hover over see full description and specifications, it tells a little bit more about that. And it's a little bit of a tricky, it's not like a full page. It's sort of like a hover modal or whatever. But you can go on here and, listen on Spotify. Listen on Spotify. I was going to do Bandcamp, but for some reason I just ended up doing Spotify. So, I mean, you get a flavor of what the songs are like, what that kind of music is like. So anyway, I put the compact disc out there. I don't know if I have any more, but that's what I had available. And I thought, well, have them out there at least. And then that way I can kind of cross, the mailing list isn't just always going to be about art. It'll be about music. Maybe I'll make some physical media again in the future. I don't know. I don't know. I should, how did I have these made? I think I mostly had these made through Kanaki, which did a really good job, but they're very finicky. They're very finicky, and it's a very automated process. But Kanaki, if you need CDs made, I don't know if they still do it, but that's who I had my CDs made through, was Kanaki, and I think it was out of Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so that's one thing I worked on last night. But the kind of the top story of the day here is the return of the Ambient Rushton Podcast. And I've been doing a podcast since late 2004. It's been almost 18 years. I mean, that was back when podcast was had just started. And I remember back in the day, who mentioned Adam Curry? Remember Adam Curry was one of the early podcasters, and he was mentioning, like you'd send him like a note or the RSS feed or whatever, and he'd mention you in his pod. He mentioned me back in 2004 or 2005 or something like that. I can't remember when that exactly was. And of course, that brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it, right? So what have I made? 181, at least 181 episodes over the years. A lot of it, I had a different name for it in the beginning, and then I self-hosted it for a long time. And then it must have been about, well, we can go back here and look here. 2014. I had so many problems with iTunes and those control freaks at Apple, and they would change the rules like every other month, it seemed. And it was like, well, your image can only be this size. No, your image must be this size. No, you must have this. No, you can only have this. It was a moving target. I don't know what their problem is. They have that sort of ADD, right? And it was just like, I can't modify my what do they call that? XML. See, I was editing the XML by myself and testing it and everything like that. I can do that sort of thing, but it got to the point where it's like, I hate Apple. And so I went with Libsyn, because everything that you put into Libsyn, as far as the podcast was concerned, there is kind of a separate section for Apple, but it's always going to be within their parameters. So if their parameters change, Libsyn changes their form or whatever, and then you deal with it going forward. And that appealed to me. So, and it did make a difficult job that much easier. But so anyway, I've been with them since 2014 on the cheapy plan. I've made a lot of podcasts, and then I got bored with it. I got like super bored making the podcast. I try to do something every month, and then after a while, I was kind of like, I don't know is anybody really listening to this? Why am I making such a big show? This takes a long time. It's driving me crazy, And I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. I mean, I'd been doing it a long time, and I used to like doing it, and I didn't really see the purpose in doing it anymore. So I stopped, waited a long time, and then I cut the account off. I quit paying on the account. I mean, I shut the account down. But the great thing about Libsyn, and I've done this a couple of times over the years here, is once you contact them and say, hey, I'd like to start it up again, they dust it off and bring everything out of the vault, and then you have to go set everything up. And that's why I'm having trouble with Facebook right now, because there's all this stuff you can sort of connect, and I think I've over connected. So that's all right. Probably nobody watching me on Facebook anyway. I think most of the people who watch this live are either on YouTube or Twitch, right? So I'm reactivating the Ambient Rushton Podcast, but there's going to be a little bit of a twist here to it, because I had just like a huge idea, epiphany, whatever it was yesterday. I was driving around last night. I went for a little drive last night. Nothing was open. I went for a little drive, and it just hit me. And it was with regard to my efforts to do sync licensing and building playlists in disco and all of that, sort of dipping my toe into the world of micro licensing agencies and sync licensing and all that sort of stuff. And I've seen so many things. And I touched on this recently in another video, where people out there say, well, your music should be good. Don't contact music supervisors directly, because they get thousands of emails a day. And then there's other ones that are saying, yeah, do go and try to figure out who these people are. And like, no, you should be watching various series and stuff like that to hear what the music is like. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. Oh yeah, you want me to go watch a bunch of Netflix and Hulu and and peacock shows and stuff. I'm not interested in that. I'm actually not even interested in the big game. I'm interested in the micro licensing. I'm interested in somebody who has a budget for music. It may not be huge. It could be a videographer, it could be a YouTube content creator. It could be somebody with another podcast who needs some music here and there and wants to license it. Again, it could be something else too, industrial film. And then, of course, the big entertainment industrial complex and what they want to use that for. And that's fine. That's fine. Commercials, all that sort of thing. But, my thing is that I'm mostly ambient. I've got over 900 ambient tracks out there, over 1,200 if you include the avant-garde stuff. I've got over 300 of the down-tempo electronica stuff. I've got loads and loads of environmental recordings, things like that. And there are some agencies and services that I'm going to, that do accept submissions and things. They do have a long period of time. Every musician in the world is contacting them for sure. I just wanted to make sure that everything that I was doing was good out in disco, getting at least a bunch of tracks out there available in uploaded and configured and all the metadata and codes and all that sort of stuff on there. And then I have been building playlists and releasing them, my little satellites out there onto all the different streaming services, focusing more on trying to attract music supervisors and agencies and things like that. That's one aspect of it. And the other aspect of it here is going to be the podcast. So for each podcast going forward here, I'll play a little bit of music in the beginning, just a little bit, minute or two maybe. And then I'm going to chime in with all of my information, maybe tell a little bit of story about the music, but generally it's going to be the kind of the same thing over and over again, which is just like who I am, what I'm looking to do with this music, how you can contact me, indicating what sort of licenses and uses that I'm interested in. Gee, if you know anybody with a budget who is looking to use music out there, then let's get a hold of me, contact me. If you're with an agency, get a hold of me, contact me. And we can talk further from that, because I look at it this way. I always talk about with the visual art. I say this art isn't going to sell itself, and it's the same thing with the music. If I want to, when I started doing certain things to get attract my music on streaming services, I had to build it myself, and it's going to be the same thing with synchronization licensing, micro licensing, and all that sort of stuff. I need to attract the people who are looking for the kind of music that I provide, and that if I just do the cattle calls and I have no interest in spamming anybody or you use this service to find out who the music supervisor was on that series years ago, and it's just like I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe that works for some in certain genres and that sort of thing. And the people who are born of whole cloth right out of music school, right? And they can do anything in any key and time signature and play a million instruments. And that's great. That's fine. I'm a little different, right? So yeah, it just kind of coalesced in my head. And I thought about it, and I came home and I said, you know what? I'm putting the podcast back together. I'm putting the podcast. I'm going to do the podcast, but I'm going to do the podcast a different way. It's not going to be playing music, a whole bunch of music. It's not going to be interviewing people or anything like that. It's going to be music right at the beginning, a couple of minutes, and then me talking about the track, talking about possible uses for it. So that's where we are. The return of the Ambient Rushton Podcast. And as you can see here out at ambient.libsyn.com, these are the old podcasts. They are out there. And in the description here of this particular video here, you'll see link for that, and then also link to the CSS. So I'm excited. I know. Wait, when do you have time for this, Rushton? Between the day job and the family, and then the live art shows and the daily art talk. Well, I think I know how to knock these out fairly quickly. It's going to be the kind of the same message over and over again. It's just going to be different tracks and repetition, short podcasts, and just getting the message out there, getting the message out. Because I know what this podcast did prior to it shutting down. It had a good enough audience, right? Not enough to attract advertisers or anything like that. I'm really kind of the only advertiser. I'm the main ingredient here. But yeah, what I want to be able to just, by titling a podcast a particular way and putting certain things in the description and talking about things a certain way. And essentially you're selling yourself. You're selling the music. The music is the most important thing. And then you're selling yourself as an artist, demonstrating that you are organized to a certain extent, know a little bit about the industry, now how not to get screwed on licensing deals and stuff like that. You need to convey that, because I'm not desperate. I'm not out here for I only play for money, honey, right? I'm not going to give it away for exposure, right? I'm not that dumb. I've been in the game a long time, been a member of ASCAP for 20 years. So anyway, the return of the Ambient Rushton Podcast. I don't know when I'm going to knock one out. Sometime this week here. Could be later today. I don't know. It's here. I might as well try to figure it out. But whew, I had quite a busy day. Quite a busy day so far with the day job, production things, and then other things that were found, and the pollen count is high. 17 minutes. I got to go. Talk to you later. Have a good day.